des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme.
Hey guys, okay, so October is right around the corner, and what we will be making today is actually pumpkin spice pumpkin nut muffins with a cream cheese center. So as you can see, all the ingredients are right here. I will have them in detail listed in the description. My website is currently under construction, so you can't access this recipe there, but you will be in the future. And when it is up, I will no longer be posting them in the description. But briefly, we have some all-purpose flour. This is already pre-sifted, granulated sugar, brown sugar, eggs, melted butter. This, actually I want to bring this to your attention, is just a bunch of spices. There's cinnamon, there's clove. This is actually entire nutmeg, which I will be putting directly into the mix with microplane. This is powdered food coloring, just because sometimes the muffin turns a little bit brown. You can choose not to use that. You could either do your own mix, which I will list ingredients I'm using, or you could just buy that spice mix. Now here we have some honey and vanilla bean extract, baking soda, baking powder, salt, buttermilk, some more vanilla, but that's for the cream cheese filling, which is right here, pumpkin, and chopped nuts. I chose pecan, but you can either not use any nuts, or you can use walnuts, whatever you prefer. So the first thing we're going to do, we're actually going to have our dry ingredients and our wet ingredients. I'm just going to take my flour right here, and like I said, this is the powdered, the baking soda, the baking powder, and salt. I'm just going to drizzle that over, and I'm just going to give it a really quick mix, just so when we put it into our wet ingredients, it doesn't, you know, clump up in one certain spot. So I'm just going to set this aside for 1 second while I do my wet ingredients. Now, here I have some eggs. I'm going to use that. It's 2 whole eggs, but like I said, the specific ingredients will be in the description box. I have some buttermilk right here. We add that to our eggs. This is our melted butter. Now, I did put some salt with the baking powder and baking soda, as you saw, so use unsalted. If you only have salted butter and you have to use salted butter, leave that salt out. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and mix all of that. We're also going to include this right here. Now this is just a little bit of honey. It gives it a little slight flavor. And the vanilla also gives it slight flavor, but it's not overpowering because I'm using so little, so it doesn't taste like we're eating vanilla muffins. Now you can choose not to put this in at all, so we're just going to add that in as well. I'm going to set this aside. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to mix this really well. You don't want any of that egg flavor to remain in there. Okay, now I've already mixed all the wet ingredients. The eggs is my main concern. You basically want to whip the eggs a little bit before you go ahead and add your sugar and your pumpkin spice. So this is my pumpkin mixture, which most people do tend to use because nobody really wants to leave the oven on, especially since it's still hot out here, for 8 hours. So this is a good option for people who can't do that. And also I'm going to add my sugar. Now you can use only granulated sugar or only brown sugar. The reason why I'm using both is because brown sugar already has that molassesy flavor, and as you saw, I already added some honey, so I really don't want to give it too much of a strong flavor, so I'm half and half is what I'm going to be using. Okay, now we're going to give this one more quick blend with our little hand mixer. And then we're going to add the dry mixture to it. Now you want to mix it really good at this point, because once we add our dry ingredients, especially with muffins, you really don't want to overmix. You just want to mix until all the dry ingredients is basically moistened and nothing further. So now is a good time to get all the wet ingredients combined. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our spices to our dry mixture. And I'm going to just directly, now this is a microplane and this is a whole nutmeg. I prefer fresh, but you definitely do not have to do fresh. And as I said before, instead of buying spices like clove and ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg separately, you can just buy the pumpkin spice mixed spices. The only reason I don't is because I like to customize it to my flavor. Like, I do like a little bit more cinnamon than usually comes in those mixes, but you know, it is a good shortcut and you don't have to buy all the spices. Some people don't really use like clove and ginger in general cooking, so you don't want to waste that. You can just buy that jar. Now it's gonna get really quick after this. We're basically going to add our entire dry mixture to our wet mixture, and we're just going to give this a really quick stir. Now, like I said, you definitely do not want to over mix this. You just want to mix this until all that dry ingredients is moistened by the wet ingredients, and that's what we're doing here. So you don't need a hand mixer for this portion. In fact, you don't even need a hand mixer to blend in the wet ingredients as we did earlier. You can just use a whisk and a spatula and that should do. Now, as I said, you don't want to overmix that, so that should basically be fine. It's just all moistened, and that is basically the consistency what we're looking for. You don't need to go crazy. You see a little bit of clumps and lumps here and there. That's normal, so you don't need to worry about that. Okay, now what I do, I use a measurement cup to put equal amounts in all my muffin tins. What I have here, they're just, I thought these were cute. They're just parchment paper folded into muffin shapes. You can buy them in the store or you could do it yourself. So now the reason why I do use this measuring cup is because this way I know that they're all going to more or less look the same. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect or anything, but it does just give it a nicer look to the finished product. Now I'm doing 2 without nuts, but what we are going to do, and that's just for people who don't like nuts in general, but I really like the pecan flavor. So I do have some chopped pecans right here, and I'm going to add it to the remainder of my mixture. Because most of us here do like the nuts, but some people don't, so I like to spoon a couple separate before I add in the nuts. Okay, give it a quick stir, and that should be sufficient. And then just spoon them in one by one. You need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit prior to doing this, because as you could see, it does have quite a few ingredients, but it is a fairly quick recipe. It doesn't require too much hassle or work or, you know, technique or anything like that. So preheat your oven to 350 prior to beginning this whole process, because this is going to go in immediately. Let's see if we could get that 12th one, that 12th cupcake, so we could have even number of cupcakes, muffins I should say. Yep. Okay. Now what you can also do is chop up some extra nuts and just decorate them on top. That looks really pretty. And we're gonna put this into the oven for about, I'm gonna say 20 to 25 minutes, just because that's how my oven works, but definitely keep an eye on it. You always want to, let's say if a recipe calls for 18 to 20 minutes, you definitely want to check your whatever it is that you're making, you definitely want to check it at the minimum time. So look how cute those look. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to set this in the oven for, like I said, 20 to 25 minutes. We're going to check it at the 20-minute mark. Now, what I like to do is halfway through my cooking process, because I will check at the 20-minute mark if these are done. 10 minutes in, I like to rotate this in my oven just to ensure even baking. So go ahead and do that, and I'm going to put this in there, and we'll be right back, and I'll show you how to do the cream cheese mixture. Okay, so these are our pumpkin muffins. Now you could already tell I've already started to go ahead and make these little holes in the center. This is basically going to be where we're going to fill in our cream cheese mixture, which I'll show you to make right now. Now this is cream cheese, but I also put a little bit of shortening. That's 100% pure shortening, and the reason why I do that is because it has a tendency to hold a little bit more. You could actually pipe this kind of cream cheese. You could pipe that kind of cream cheese frosting versus just cream cheese, sugar, and vanilla. Now I'm just going to give my powdered sugar just a really quick whisk, because this is what it does. It aerates it, but it also kind of breaks up any clumps, so you don't have to break out your sifter. What I'm going to do actually is I'll go ahead and beat this a little bit. This is softened, so you need to leave this room temperature. Basically, when you start making your muffins, leave it out, and it just becomes fluffy fairly quickly. I'm going to add some powdered sugar, and I'm just going to give it a really quick mix before I turn on. I know it's still going to kind of go everywhere, but this kind of prevents it a little bit. You can do this by hand, not necessary at all to do it by mixer. You just need to make sure your cream cheese is at room temperature. I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla because I like that vanilla bean in there. It gives it a lot of flavor without interrupting the pumpkin flavor, and it also gives little nice vanilla bean specks. Looks really pretty. Okay, we're going to try this.
Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens.